Still have some counting to do. Today, I think they'll make an awful lot of progress to the extent that we can get much more of the vote in. The last I saw, about 91% of the vote is counted. And in order to be, to be able to make a projection or to have some certainty with regard to the final count, you'd have to get that number higher to, 98, maybe 99. You won't have 100% of the vote really accounted for a while. And that's true in every state before they certify. So if we can get from 91% of the vote counted to 98, maybe, I'd rather maybe get to 99 today. That would be a good development. But I think Joe Biden's going to win the state. I've said that I think it'd be somewhere north or south of 100,000.
And it seems right now that Vice President Joe Biden, he's advocating for patience, that we should wait for everything to be processed.
Yeah.
Obviously, the president is going in the opposite direction, and he's been going on Twitter. He's saying, stop the counting, and he's brought lawsuits against states like Pennsylvania. What was your reaction when you saw that the president was going this route and taking these measures against your home state?
Yeah, it's typical of the president. This is one in a long line of outrages. It's really kind of an outgrowth of a lie he's been telling, that somehow voting by mail has, there's something wrong with it, even though he votes by mail, and everybody around him, I think his family does as well. But it's typical of the president to have that kind of basic contradiction, where he's saying stop the count in Pennsylvania because he's about to lose, and keep the count going in some other place. But I don't think he's going to be successful because of the Constitution and because of the right to vote. And I think ultimately his challenges will be something a lot less than frivolous.
And it also seems that many Republican lawmakers have been fairly quiet in response to the president's tactics that he's been taking so far. The only thing that I have been seeing from Republicans out of the Senate and out of the House is just let the counts continue, just let the process keep going. How do you think this is going to look, not just for the U.S., but also to a lot of our global partners that we look at, seeing on the inside the tactics that President Trump is going about making these claims that many commentators have compared to some of the roles that some dictators have done throughout the world?
Yeah, you would think he would take the hint from his members of his party in Washington, who, and I haven't tracked all their statements, but there's no real, no real support for what he's saying. You'd think he'd take that silence as a bad sign for his argument. But look, we'll just have to watch the process play out. But I hope today is the day we will have enough of a vote in Pennsylvania to be able to say with certainty that that Joe Biden won Pennsylvania and then won the Electoral College. Because if that happens today, the race will be over.
And the last thing I want to ask you is, obviously, at the end of the day, if Vice President Joe Biden wins or loses, or if President Trump wins or loses, the other candidate has to admit that they lose this battle. I know for months I've been trying to find out what happens if President Trump refuses, even if the numbers do come up against him, if the numbers are in favor of Vice President Joe Biden.
Right.
Do you know what will happen if the president declines it? Obviously, we know if he lost, or if Vice President Joe Biden lost, some of these states are so close, a recount will be asked for. But what happens after that?
Well, the Constitution and the law will govern, and so that you'll go from a determination that one candidate has won the Electoral College, and then the continuation of the counting in terms of getting the full vote in continues as it always does until elections are certified by the states, and then the Electoral College has to meet and cast their votes, and that will unfold. And then after that process is over, there'll be an inauguration. So at some point, it doesn't really matter what the president says or does if he's on the short end of that. we're not there yet. But if he is, the Constitution will just roll forward, and he can choose to either let the Constitution roll forward or he can stand in front of it, but the Constitution will prevail.
I just remembered I had one more question, and it goes back to the whole Supreme Court situation that we had just a few weeks
Mhm.
ago. The president has brought up this bringing this election to the Supreme Court. What
Right.
exactly can the Supreme Court do in this case and scenario?
Well, I think the Supreme Court would have to make an initial decision as to whether or not they want to take the case. There's no, uh, very few legal procedures that allow you to have an automatic review of a matter by the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court could decline to take the case, and that would be the end of it. Or they could say they're going to review it and make a determination, and then we'd see what they say. I think they would make a determination, I think, on a fairly expedited basis. But I think they'll be, I think, cautious and appropriately so to interfere in an election or create the impression that they're interfering not just in an election, but an election that will have already been decided. And one of the things I know that the lawyers will focus on is the voters' reliance, meaning if you say this is how you vote and that voter follows that process and they have voted, and then the federal government or the court comes in and says, oh no, we're not going to count your vote. And the voter says, what are you talking about? You told me to do this, I did this, and I want my vote counted. So I think courts at any level, but especially the Supreme Court, I think is going to be hesitant or at least very concerned about interfering, because if they do that, their own legitimacy as the highest court in the land is called into question, and then then the country is really in trouble if the legitimacy of the court is compromised.